How about now? Can you hear me now? Sorry about that. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Still no? Yes, no? Rob, tell me you can hear me. Da, da, da. How about now? Having technical problems. I don't know what else to do. Yes, you can hear me now? Okay. Yeah, I had my audio muted, apparently. I muted myself, so I'll try that whole thing again. So we are going to be talking about masking. And as I was saying, not this kind of masking, more like Photoshop and layers masking. So I'm going to be demonstrating with both Luminar and Photoshop. How's my audio sync, by the way? Am I good in, out? We're going to be talking about layers and masking specifically. So while you can do masking in Lightroom, that's not the kind of masking that we're going to be talking about. I don't see Rob in the chat yet. I wonder if he is snoozing at his desk here. Okay. Just checking in with Rob. Okay. So we're going to be talking about specifically layer masking. So just like this kind of mask, what it does, a mask hides or shows part of a layer, part of your image. So I'm going to hop over here into Lightroom. Sync is near perfect. Awesome. Thank you, David. How's that? Okay, let's make my head a little smaller. My head is too big. There we go. Okay. All right, so I've got a bunch of images that I can use to demonstrate here, and I want to just start really, really simply. So I'm going to just pick two images and blend them together. I need to get my color images here. So give me a second. I'm going to import. I just want my grayscale image. So I'm just going to do a quick add here. I've been working on the new Luminar Neo course. So if you are a Luminar Neo user, we have a brand new course now coming out. It's out and all new lessons. So there, I'm just going to put it in here. All new lessons, and everything is being re-recorded with the new Luminar Neo interface. If you own our old version of our course, you get it for free. And if you do not own the course, when you purchase it, you will get a copy of you'll get to join the Luminar Accelerator program. Okay, so let me go back in here. All right, now I've got a couple of things, and I just want to show you really quickly how masking works using some of these images here. So I'm just going to grab this grayscale. I don't think it's very big. And maybe this one. Okay, so when you're dealing with layers and masking, actually maybe I'll do something a little simpler. Let's do the dog and the coffee. Okay, so they're two very different images. When you want to do layers from Lightroom like this, all you need to do is select your images and then right click, choose edit in. I need to turn on my little cursor doodad. There we go. Edit in. And then down at the bottom here, you have a couple of choices for layers. You can choose open as smart object layers. Okay, so if you're going to be applying filters to those layers, you want them to be smart objects, or if you're going to be resizing them. In this case, I'm not though. I'm just going to show you how masks work. So I'm going to open them as layers without them being a smart object. Okay, so you can open them as smart object layers or regular layers. So I'm just going to open them as regular layers. Okay, so they're JPEGs. I'm opening in Photoshop. And I just realized I think I have Photoshop the wrong version set up. And of course now I need to move all my panels. I've got so many panels here. Okay, let me get this layers one. Let me get this one out of here. Let me get this one out of here. Okay, so the only one that you're really concerned about right now is layers. Okay, so here's my layers panel. And what it shows me is that I have 2 images currently opened. Okay, but I only see the coffee one. Okay, why is that? Because there's no mask. Okay, there's no mask, meaning a cutout. So this layer on top is the coffee. If I turn it off, like the eyeball, you could see that the dog is underneath, right? You can also see it's a smaller image, but that's okay, right? I can actually fix that. Let me just make this smaller here. Let me just transform this layer. I'll just make it a little bigger so it covers the whole space. Like so. Okay, so now we have our little dog covering this spot. He's on the bottom layer. Okay, can you see this? You can adjust the size of what your layers show here by doing, where are we? Should be under layer options. I always forget what this is. I set this up and then I forget. Should be under panel options. There we go. Yes, there we go. Okay, so I can make these thumbnails bigger, right, to show the layer thumbnail, okay? And then you can say, okay, what do we want to show on this area here, right? So now I've got bigger thumbnails. I don't know, they look marginally the same to me. Oh, did not save. Okay. There we go. Now we've got bigger thumbnails just so you can see them a little better. So the bottom layer is the little dog and the top layer is the coffee, okay? Because they're both opaque, meaning they're like this mask, right? If I put it in front of my face, you can't see me, right? So the coffee is on top, meaning you can't see the dog below. If we lower the opacity or the level of transparency, we start to see the dog through the coffee, okay? But let's say we want to do something where we blend him, but we just have him over here, okay? So we want to mask to just show the dog only in this portion. So how do we do that, okay? Well, we just need to hide part of the top layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this about 50%, just so we can see where the dog is. Then I'm going to add a mask to this layer of the coffee beans. Masking down here is this little icon, so we just click it. Now this is the mask that we're going to work with. I need to get my brush from my other screen here. Okay, so now you want to use a regular brush. So B on your keyboard will select the brush, and you want to make sure that you have black and white. So that's the only thing that you ever paint with on a mask is black and white. So you may have heard the whole black reveals, white conceals. Well, look what color the mask is now. It's white. So that means that it is concealing the entire bottom layer. The only reason we can see the dog is because we lowered the opacity. Okay, so if we want to start to reveal the dog, okay, did I say that right? White conceals, black reveals. I might have said that backwards. White conceals, black reveals. So I'm going to paint with a black brush, which is the top color. And if you have different colors here on your code here, I don't know why that's black and white, just press X and it returns to D to return a default, and X switches them. So D default, X to switch, okay? So now I am going to paint on the mask, and it even tells you now, this is new, I've never seen this before. So I can add to the mask or subtract from the mask. That's interesting, okay? I've never seen this little toolbar before. That is definitely a new thing. Now I'm going to get a bigger brush. So I'm just using the square bracket keys, or you can right click and change the size of the brush. Okay. The hardness of the brush is important as well, because the softer your brush, meaning the lower hardness level, your painting will fade and be more natural. If I try and paint with hardness, excuse me, at 100, you're going to see what's happened. So let me do that. So I take a brush stroke right here. Oh, I forgot. I lowered the opacity of the brush. All right. So now I need to check my brush opacity. Let's turn that up to 100 and try that again. Interesting. It's showing me a red mask, which is new. Apparently, new Photoshop is playing tricks on me today. So why that is happening, I do not know. Interesting. It's painting in red. That is certainly not what I just did. All right, let's try undoing, and let's just paint with this. Yeah, it's subtracting from the mask, so it should be showing the dog through. Yeah, like that. Oh, I know what's happening. I know what's happening. I didn't paint with red. It's showing the red from the bottom layer. Aha. Okay, silly me. All right, so let's try this again. I'm going to move the dog over. So I'm using the move tool on the bottom layer. Oops. Let's move the dog. Not here. There. Let's move the dog over. Come on, dog. Oh, let's move our dog over. There we go. And let's keep the coffee where it was. And turn the coffee opacity back up. Okay, so now we shouldn't be able to see the dog. There we go. Okay, let's try this again. Now I'm going to paint. I'm losing my mind today. I'm going to paint at 100% opacity, and what's going to happen is we're going to see the dog. There we go. Notice how hard edged the brush is. Okay, it's also doing some weird things with like a scalloped edge. That has to do with the brush settings in here as well. So I think there's some other funky stuff going on in my brush settings here. Let's just pick a soft brush like this. Okay, so now let's do it with a softer brush. No, I'm not doing it with a clone stamp brush. There we go. So now, oh, no, I still have a hard brush. Change the hardness. There we go. Oh my goodness. Let's keep going here. This is crazy. Do you see what's happening? So somehow it started on a new layer. I just want to reveal the little dog. Okay, so where I paint, it's like I'm cutting a hole through to the bottom layer. Okay, so see where this black is on this layer? Okay, I'm cutting a hole so that we can see the dog through. Okay, it's a little bit weird, but let's just finish showing the dog. All right, so now we have dog and coffee. Okay, so the softer edge your brush, meaning the lower the hardness, the more edge fade you have. Okay, the harder edge brush, the more defined. And somewhere in my brush setting, something else is gone on there. So you could paint with a lower opacity as well, which is what I did at first by accident, right? And you'll only get a small amount showing. See, there I just get a little bit of red. I'm just doing undo, right? Notice there's no image over here. So if I hide or put a mask on this part of the image, it's going to show nothing because there's nothing underneath, okay? So you make sure that your layers are revealing something. So this is a very simplest form of literally just cutting a hole in the mask. Now, if I want to move this layer of the coffee, okay, right now the mask is linked together. So if I move the layer, the mask moves as well, okay? If I don't want that to happen, we can unlink it so that when I move the image, the mask stays on the dog. Okay, so the image is moving, the dog is not. And that is just this little link thing right in the middle there. Okay, so technical issues aside, all right. Any questions about that? So basic layering and masking, okay? I haven't talked about blend modes or anything like that in this portion, okay? So let me just go back here. I missed the part of his ear. if we want to change the blend mode, then that's going to change how things apply as well, as you could see. So usually when you're making a composite of this nature, you're going to be using both masking and layer blending, okay? Layer blend modes. Now, if I want this dog to appear as if he's in the image of the coffee, I'm going to have to mask him a lot better than that, okay? So there are definitely more advanced tools for masking. So I'm just going to save this one and close it, and let's try something different. Okay, so that was a really, really basic. All right, let's see. I've got a few interesting things here, and I wanted to talk about when you're doing a cutout. Like if you want to mask something off of the background, make your life easy. Don't pick an image like this, okay? Because you've got a black dog on a black background, and it's going to be almost impossible to find the edge of that dog, okay? So conversely, here's a black dog on a not so black background. And if you want to cut him out, you can do some masking in Lightroom first before you even attempt that, right? So you can use the background selection, and it should do a decent job of picking out the background. It does. So then you can brighten it, right? It's not perfect, right? But let's brighten it, because then if we want to select this dog on a mask and cut him out so we can change the background, for example, it's going to make it way easier in Photoshop. Okay, so let's take him. I'm just going to do a color correction on him. I feel like he's green. There we go. Okay, so let's just do a mask. That's better. And take it over to Photoshop. I'll do a Luminar example after this, okay? So now I'm going to open him as a smart object. Now keep in mind that when I open him as a smart object, I can apply any kind of filter, and it will apply automatically with a mask. For example, let me just say I want to do a saturation layer, okay? So anytime you do an adjustment and you have a smart object, it comes on as what's called a smart filter with a mask already attached, okay? So if I go in here, and where is my settings? Where are my, here we go. If I go in here and let's say, well, I just want to desaturate him a little bit, okay? So he's almost more black and white. Okay, it automatically comes with this mask. So if I wanted to only have that apply to part of the image, I could mask it right from here. Okay, just to show you that anytime you have a smart object, when you apply an adjustment, it comes on here. Okay, it comes as anytime you do an adjustment, it comes as a smart layer. Okay, if I want to apply a filter, let's say liquefy, for example. I wouldn't liquefy the dog, or let's pick something else. Let's just choose, we'll oil paint him. Okay, so anytime you're choosing a filter, okay, we'll just go with the default settings, doesn't matter. Okay, now he's oil painted, and it's a filter which shows on this layer as a filter, as a smart filter, okay, with its own mask. Okay, so if I don't want the painting on the dog, for example, I can still use that black brush, right, and get it off of him. And the advantage of having this as a smart filter is all you have to do is double click the name of the filter that you used, and the settings will come up again. Okay, let's just see, we'll get some more brush strokes. We'll just make a stronger effect so you can see it. Okay, so see where it affects on the background? It just makes it kind of textured. But if we don't want it on the dog, okay, we can mask it using that. So I'm just going to delete some of these things here. And I'm going to delete that. There we go. Okay, now let's do a selection of him. And the easiest way to select the object is you got all these smart tools now. Okay, so anytime you want to select an object, literally you have select subject up here in the menu, okay? And then you can refine it, or you can use like a lasso, for example. Anytime you select one of these tools that does a selection. So a marquee or the lasso or the magic lasso, magic wand, you'll get this select and mask button. Okay. So then you can take it into this other window. Where's my window here? I'm missing my tools. Missing my tools for this one. Where are my tools? Oh, there they are. There they are. Hiding on my other window. Okay, so when you have your mask, right, I can say, okay, I want to select the subject. Let's refine his hair. Oh, could not find any hair. Interesting. So I did not find my subject here very well at all. Let me just get out of there. Let's try again. Let's just try select subject. It should find him. There we go. Okay, now that the subject is roughly selected, now we can go select and mask, and we should be able to refine it. There we go. Okay, now we can use these tools here and refine it. Again, I am not the master of this by any stretch of the imagination. Renee Robin, who did a webinar for us last week in the DPM community, is way better at this thing than I am. Right? But masking inside Photoshop is complex and time consuming. You should have a tablet, a graphics tablet, which I have, but I'm not using right now because it's way easier to draw than to try and use a mouse to do these things. Okay, now my Photoshop is going crazy. I've got too many things open. Let me close some things here. There we go. My Photoshop is stuck. Any questions about... Okay, I have a question by Marguerite. What happens if you cut the link between a layer and its mask? So as I just did a moment ago with the dog and the coffee, it just means that they will not move together then. So then you can move the mask and that layer independently. Normally by default, they come linked, right? Let me come back and do that again. I'll just do deselect. So if what kind of thing did I put on there? If I make a mask, did that answer your question, Marguerite? I'm kind of off topic today, feeling a little discombobulated. Okay, so the point I wanted to make with this dog versus the other dog is make your life easy in terms of if you're going to work on a selection to cut something out, don't start with a subject like this. Start with an image where the subject and the background have better definition between them, right? So this one is better, but you're still going to have trouble over here on the man's shoulder, okay? Unless you're cropping in, to here. This one is good because you have a nice separation. So you need separation. This one is good. This one is good. Better. Okay, so to see the difference there, that's going to be way easier to cut out, but where it's going to struggle is down here at this table, okay? Easier to cut out. In fact, I did do this one, okay? So I changed the background with this one in Luminar Neo, and I gave him a background that kind of matched his shirt, okay? So I want to take a little survey here and see where you guys want me to take this, because I can demonstrate a few different methods of masking and different techniques, okay? I can show you, let's just take a vote. I could show you change the background. I could show you a double exposure. We can look at light painting. We can look at this one of Rob that we did here. These girls are kind of fun. Let me show you these girls. What I did with these was we photographed them outside in a park, and then I cut them out and changed the background and added smoke behind them. Okay, and I did the burst in Luminar as well as the glowing eyes on the skull on this one. Okay, same here. This one I did a rotate blur instead of a zoom blur, but added the smoke as well. And this one, I didn't add the smoke, but I just did a twist blur and added sun rays into the little lantern, okay? So those are kind of fun, right? We can also combine two images like that. Might be fun. And the other thing that I've done is taken an image like this, which is a street scene in Cuba, and added like a flag onto the wall, or a Che Guevara painting onto the wall. So let's just take a vote. I'm just going to pick the Cuban flag to do one of these types of effects. We could do a double exposure with the sunflowers. We could do a double exposure with the saxophonist. I could show you the twist effect, change the background, or light painting. So let's vote on those 6 things. So change the background. Just pick 1 to 6. What would you like to see? Change the background, put 2 images together like this one, layered light painting and masking, blur effects, combining 2 sunflowers, or combining 2 Cuba images. So basically these 3 are all sort of double effects, double exposure effects. What would you like to see today? And I'll build one. If we have time, we'll do 2. Rob, what would you like to see done? I did have a cat in my office, but no cats. Everybody sleeping today? No votes. Oh, David says number 6. So Cuba. Robert says double. So which one, Robert? The saxophone guy, or do you have a preference? 2 or 6. Okay, so that's a couple votes for 6. Rob, got a vote? 2. Okay, he says 2. So we've got 2 and 6. Those seem to be the popular ones. Rob's working on the new Luminar Neo course, as was I right before this as well. So that's kind of why I wasn't ready today, because I was working on the course. So it seems like 6 is a vote here. Okay, so let's do this one. Let's do this one in Photoshop, and then I will do the saxophone in Luminar. How's that? Or, okay, so I've already edited these ones here to give them some punch, okay? So if I look at the originals, okay, the original's just flat, so I punched it up. Same thing with the flag, just punched it up. It's also quite cropped. I think I cropped it a little bit as well. And then let's add it to maybe this one, because there's a nice sort of wall space here that I could add, maybe a flag on this side and Che over here if we want to, try that kind of thing. So I'm just going to update this one. Let's pick a camera profile. Ooh, landscape does a nice job there. But this is when I was still shooting Canon. That's a while ago. Okay, and then let's give her some clarity, some texture. I feel like she's a little bit maybe blue. There we go. Let's take the saturation down a little bit. And a bit of an edge vignette. So that's pretty much all I would do here, okay? So there's not a lot to do with this image, but I want to bring this one in with the other one and combine them now, okay? So the same thing that I did with the dog and the coffee, and I'm going to do all 3. So I'm going to select Che and the flag and her, okay? Now I'm going to do edit in, layers. And I don't need smart objects on these, so I'm just going to go layers. So my determining factor on whether or not I do them as smart layers is, am I going to be applying like Luminar to any of them? Or I want to take it to Luminar or to Topaz or something as a filter, or am I going to resize it? That kind of thing. But if I'm not doing those things and I'm just going to be blending the layers, I don't need smart objects. Okay, so now we can see what's happened is I've got a mess because they're not the right size, obviously. But that's okay. I mean, I don't want the flag big anyways. So let's do this one by one. Okay, so I think the Che flag or the Che painting would look good over here. So the first thing I need to do is resize it. And in fact, then I will make this a smart object. So let's just right click it over here and convert to smart object. So now when you want to resize, okay, you go to edit and where are we? Free transform. Okay, so I use the keyboard shortcut Command T. Rob, if you could please share the link to our Photoshop keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet. You always have to think about the words when I'm saying that. Okay, now you get these little handles and you can just resize. Notice that it won't change the aspect ratio, so it keeps it, it won't distort it, okay? Unless you hold down your shift key, okay? Then you can do all kinds of weird squishy things, okay? We could make him a little bit, you know, narrower if we want, but I don't want to do that. Let's just put him back to the right aspect ratio. So I'm just going to resize it until I can make it fit right about there. So now it's kind of like, you know, she's looking over here, right? So that's where I want him to be. That's the edge of the image. Hit enter. But obviously that's not blended very well. So let's zoom in a little bit here. Okay, this is obvious that I've added something. So I want the texture of the bottom layer to come through. So we have a couple of choices here. Again, we can play with the blend mode and the masking. And I'm going to do both here, and I'll show you why. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of go through these blend modes and see how it looks. Okay, so darken blend mode is anything on this layer that's darker than the one below. Okay, so where it's painted, anything in this darkened section is looking for stuff that's darker than the layer below. Okay, multiply combines the darknesses. So play with these ones here. Lighten's looking for the opposite. So that's not what we want here. We don't want the white wall to show. Any of these in this section are going to lighten. Overlay is adding or looking for contrast. So some of these might actually work, okay? And I'm leaning towards hard light, although that's kind of interesting. These ones down here are just going to be weird. So difference kind of inverts it, makes it like a negative. That one I use when I'm positioning layers. So I think one of these, like hard light, hard light. And then let's just play with the opacity a little bit. Right, so I want it to look like it's painted on this wall. Okay, now I'm going to add a mask. So click the mask down here. I'm going to get the brush, so B on my keyboard. I've got black. And this time I do want to paint with a lower opacity. So notice up here where it says opacity. If you just type on your keyboard, I'm going to hit 3. Now it's 30%. Okay, can you see that? So I can paint with 30% around the edge like this. Let me get a smaller brush. Okay, because I want this edge to disappear. I want it to be like it's painted on this wall. Okay, so I don't want the white edge to show. So I'm just sort of like fading it out in certain areas. Like that, okay? Maybe a little smaller brush up here. That looks actually pretty realistic, doesn't it? Does it look like it was painted here? Now, if I went too far, I just have to click X to switch the mask. So white is going to show more of this one again. So I can paint back this dark area that I sort of overbrushed, like so. Right? Let's back out and see how believable that is. Right? Let's turn the mask off. To turn the mask off, hold the shift key and click on the mask. You'll see this little X show up. So that's what the mask is doing. And if we make the opacity stronger, yeah, we get too much white then, okay? The other thing we can do is we can apply one of those adjustments here. Okay, so the adjustment that I'm looking for here might be a photo filter. So the wall is kind of yellow, so I don't want the white showing through. So let's do a photo filter. And my photo filter tool's on the other monitor, of course. And this one is orange. It comes up with a warming filter, but look at how nice that is. And it applies. We're going to do it just on the Che image, okay? Preserve luminosity really is going to help with that, okay? So I'm just going to use the warming filter, and let me show you what's called a clipping mask, okay? So this is a mask of a different kind. So right now, this adjustment layer is applying to everything below it. So it's applying to the layer that has Che on it and the layer of the original image. If you hold your mouse right between these two layers and hold down the Option key, so that would be Alt on Windows, Do you see how my cursor changed from a hand to a square with a down arrow? When you get that square with the down arrow, only when you're right between the layers, click it, and it creates what's called this clipping mask. So now this filter here is only applying on Che. Can you see that? I can also pick a color. So if I want to say, well, I really want this same wall color. So now I can just say, pick a color, and I clicked on this little square. Okay. Now I get the eyedropper. I can pick the color of the wall. Maybe let's get a darker shade like this one. And where am I? I have to be on this layer to pick that color. Well, that's interesting. It won't let me pick that color. That's interesting. Let's try that again. Haha. It's picking the one to below there. All right, let's do another trick then. All right, if I want to pick the color, I just need to go to the bottom layer, the eyedropper. Let's pick this color. Now it's in the square over here. And I'm going to come up to the photo filter. And the color that I want is, there we go. Okay, so now the color is the same as this here. So I just chose the eyedropper to put it into my patch. And now we've got the same color. Okay, once again, we can change the blend mode here. Maybe I want soft light instead. Maybe we want overlay instead. I still like the hard light, but maybe not at 100 opacity. Let's go somewhere in there. Okay, so the whole idea is I want it to be believable that that's actually painted there, right? Does that look believable? Now, if I move this layer, okay, the mask is going to move. So this comes up to Marguerite's question. No, I wanted the Photoshop keyboard shortcuts, Rob, not Luminar. So now if I move this layer, so that's V keyboard shortcut, the mask goes with it. Okay, so you could see where I painted out the edge there, right? So now the mask goes with it, all right? If I want the mask to stay where it was, now I unclick it. Now the image is moving, but the mask stayed where it was, which is not what I want here. Right, so let's try them up higher. Okay, if you want to check your mask, turn off the bottom layer. Let's bring this one all the way up to 100%. Okay, now you can see where you've painted and come in closer. And I might want to do some more painting out of this edge here. Okay, so I'm still painting with the opacity of 30%. So getting rid of this edge. But I don't mind that texture there, right? Just blending the edge here so it doesn't sort of just suddenly end. Same here. Now let's turn this layer back on. That actually looks pretty good, even at 100%. Okay. Another quick shortcut is when you are on the layer and you have the move tool activated, that's the crosshairs, V on your keyboard, you can actually then just hit numbers and it will change the opacity. So 8 changes it to 80, 50, and so on. Okay. So there's Che up in the corner, right? Now let's deal with the flag. So let's turn the layer on. Command T for oops, I'm still on this layer. Command T for transform, so we can change the size. Now, if I want to make it smaller and then make it bigger again, I really should make it into a smart object first. Okay, so right click on the layer itself, convert to smart object. Now I'm going to transform it. So anytime you want to do non-destructive editing, make sure you do it as a smart object. Okay. Now there's a couple options. We could have the flag come all the way across onto the door, which is not likely how it would appear, but let's just see what happens. And then let's play with the blend modes, right? So we've got darken, which is kind of interesting. If I resize that to fit just over here, maybe I don't even have to mask it, right? Look at that. It even's got the graffiti showing through it, right? We can hide that graffiti as well. There we go. I kind of like it up here though. Let's try the other blend modes, right? Lighten's definitely not going to work. We're probably going to be in this realm as well, right? Overlay is really faded. This one's not coming through as well. I really like darken, I think. I think darken is going to be the ticket. Okay, luminosity is just shades. Okay, so darken is actually darken or multiply and then dial this down a bit. Okay, no, I think darken. It does not want to stay there. There we go. Right, now we can decide, okay, do we want it to kind of come in from the edge and go right to the edge here? Like it's been painted. We can have the graffiti go right in the middle there. And it looks too perfect, right? So what I would do is mask it so it's not so square because the edges are too perfect, right? The painting would have been rougher. So this is where the mask would come in. So I'm going to add a mask. Zoom in again. Get my brush, which is black. 30%. And this is where I might actually change the brush settings here, right? So let me see, where are my brush settings? Here we go. Right, so this is where I might change these brush settings here under dynamics and things, right? So what happens when you're doing, I don't need all these guys, too many tools. What happens when you're doing these things here is you can end up with a really interesting brush. Like these are all things that you can add. So for example, if I want to have a brush that does textures, right? Look at this. I'm just going to go at 100% just to show you what it does. It looks a little bit more realistic, okay? So rather than just painting smooth, I can increase the spacing, right? See that? Let's try a different one. Okay, so you get sort of like this sponge effect. So I'm looking for one that is going to sort of match this painting here. So now I'm going to paint with 40% opacity, and I'm just going to go, no, too much opacity, not the right texture. Let's try that. Okay, now it's a really big brush. That's a weird shape. And that's really big as well. These are my smoke brushes. That's what that is. That's my smoke brush. See that? Let me get a bigger one. This is how I did the smoke on the girls. Okay, so those are my smoke brushes. Let's do maybe this one. Let's see. Nope. Texture. Nope. I think the brush one was probably the best. I just want something that comes across as soft. So let's just get a really big one. And I'm going to rotate it. There we go. Something like this. And let's do 20%. And I'm just going to kind of like you would if you were doing like sponge painting on your bathroom. And if you change it, you'll change the shape, right? You can change the type of brush, the shape, so that it's not giving you the same texture, right? I can even go in the middle here, right? So it's showing more through, and I'm just making it so that it's coming through on the edges more, but realistic, faded out, okay? And if I don't like what I did, just switch colors and paint it back. Right? Not crazy about that texture of that one. But let's see what the mask is doing. So see how it's just sort of softening the edges, right? I would play with this a little bit more. It's not the perfect mask by any stretch of the imagination. Switching my mask. So, oh, that was a good one. See how I'm rotating the mask, rotating the brush, rotating the brush, changing the opacity, changing the kind of brush so that it's constantly giving me something different. Like that, and then pick a different brush. That one's too far apart. Change that. Changing the size. So all of my keyboard shortcuts I use frequently, okay? Too much repetition there. Something like that. Okay, does that look believable? Right? Not believable? A little more believable. So I would work on that a little bit more. Okay, let me see what comments we got happening over here. Okay. Oh, we had a bot. Photoshop keyboards, out of sync. Are those custom brushes part of Photoshop, or do you have to design your own? The smoke brushes, Marguerite, I actually just went and searched for Photoshop brushes, free Photoshop smoke brushes, and downloaded them. There's tons of free resources for Photoshop. You just have to look, right? So let's see what these layers are doing. Okay, so we've got just a lady. We added the added the photo filter to make the color blend a little better. And then added the flag. And I think it's a little bit too bright. So I'm just going to lower the opacity of the flag. And then we have something like that. The flag still feels too perfect to me because it was cropped exactly the way that square, like an image cropping. It needs more irregularities on the edges, I think, because it looks too perfect. So what I might do is just find a grunge edge or something and put it around that layer. So I'm not going to do that here, but I could do the same sort of effect with the brush strokes that I've been building up here. Okay, so I'm just trying to get this edge to not look so there, like something there. That's a little better. See, I just want the edges. That's too much. I just want the edges not so perfect. Right? You get the idea? It's just still too perfect. So there is our layered picture. Okay. Now to save it, you just have to do save. Remember when you bring something from Lightroom into Photoshop, you don't want to do save as, just do save and then close, and it will come back to Lightroom. Okay. So there it's already closed, and there's our image. So now we can see the finished creation. Okay. Kind of cool. And because it's a Photoshop layered file and I saved it that way, I can go back and re-edit it anytime. If I decide I don't want Che, or I want to switch the places of them, or I want to put the flag on the door, I can change that because it's layers. So to open that again, all I have to do this time is edit in Photoshop, and then make sure I edit the original. So the next one we're going to do in Luminar. Right? Then when it opens in Photoshop, it's going to give me exactly the same layers that I just had a minute ago where I left off. Right? As you can see, it's opening. There it is. Okay? So I could change the sides. I could move the Che guy around. Let's put him down. Oops. It does not want me to grab this layer. There we go. So now I could move him down here. And in that case, I might want to either mask it a little bit more. It's kind of a little bit white there, but I don't mind that. Maybe there. I don't mind that. And if we want to put the flag on the door and make it smaller, make it a little bit more subtle, like so. Okay. Now we have a totally different image, and we can save it again. Okay. I can also duplicate this image and put the flag over here as well. And if I duplicate it, right, just click here and duplicate this layer, right? It duplicates it with the mask. Okay, so I can just resize this one, put it over here, and now we've got all kinds of flags. Okay. Like so. Still needs more blending on the edge of the flag. I'm not happy with that. But just to give you the idea of what is possible. All right, let's come back over here and find our trumpet player. Okay, so with the trumpet player, I got to get the two images of him. Where is he? So what I did was I combined them. Oops. I combined them, right? So this image and this image to make this image, okay? So you could see the water splashing and so on. Now to do this in Luminar is a little bit trickier because I have to have these already saved, okay? And I think I did somewhere, but I don't remember where I saved them, and I've had an issue with my Luminar, so I'll have to just export them as JPEG. So let me just come back here and do that. Okay, so I'm just gonna export these. And for the sake of ease of working with, I'm just going to use 3000 JPEGs, full size, and I'm just going to put them on my desktop, which is where I tell people not to put their photos, right? So let me come over to Luminar and then just add them. They should be on the desktop in a moment, I hope. Did it do it? Oh, it's doing it. Sire search was doing something. I don't want to do that. There we go. Export. And there's the Cuba. So we'll just add them. Now that they are open in Luminar, you don't have the same options that you have in Lightroom for opening them as layers. We can't just select them both. And in fact, this is actually feedback that I gave to Luminar, to the folks at Luminar, and I said, hey, you know, they asked me, what would it take for you to use Luminar as a professional and to get rid of Photoshop and Adobe? And one of the things I said was, I need more layers capabilities. So I need to be able to take two images like this and open them one on top of the other. Okay, so I should have actually just added one, and this one here is really the only one I needed to add because this one is going to be added as a layer. So we can take this into Luminar. So we can do all the same, you know, beginning edits. I've already done that. But now we just need to add the second image on top, okay? So you have to click the plus. So it's kind of a two-step process. You have to click the plus, load the image, which I know is on the desktop. So let's find that second image. There it is. So you have to add it, and then it's going to show up here. Then you have to click it to add it as a layer. So I wish that it would make an assumption that if you're adding this image as a layer, you want it added now, right? But you have to do the extra step of adding it in here to your images and then adding it as a layer. So now it automatically puts it in at 50% opacity. So it's slightly transparent, and we've got this box to resize it. Okay. So the same thing happens here that we had in Photoshop. So if I just grab the corner, it doesn't change the aspect ratio or distort him. Okay. Now I'm trying to remember how I did this first one. I know that I had him quite large up here in the sky area. Now he's kind of sitting on himself. It's just kind of weird. I need to go see what I did now. Let's see, how did I do that? Okay, so his back is just behind his head. Okay, so let's do that. There we go. So it needs to be a little bigger. I think it was something like that. Maybe not quite so big. Oh, I think I have a different image at the background, maybe. It's not going to be exactly the same. You can also rotate it. Maybe that's what I did. No, because then the horizon is going to be wonky. So I'm not going to rotate it. Let's go with something like this. And see how this works out. Okay, so once I come over here, okay, and click the properties. Anytime you click properties, you get this sort of the bounding box. So we can play with the opacity, but I want to turn it up a little bit and play with the blend modes, okay? Because it's probably going to be in that overlay soft light again, right? Because we don't want to darken. I don't want to lighten. I want them to blend together. So soft light is often one that I go to, and you can see how it's doing a nice job here, okay? So I'm just going to get him to show up. And then we're going to mask it. Okay, so I don't want this over top. Maybe I did it the other way around. So I'm going to erase some of these areas here. Okay, so let's just blend it better down here. This is a totally different blend than I did the first time, obviously. Okay, and like so. I could also try changing the layer order. I'm missing the bottom of the saxophone now. Right, so right now I've got this layer on top, but we can change the order just by dragging them up and down. Okay, so now, because this one is on top, now I need to change this blend mode. So let's see if this one actually works better with this one on the bottom. So now I've got this one on the bottom at 100%. And now I can't fade that one out. Nope. So that didn't work. But try different things. Let's leave this one on the bottom. And go back to this one on the top. So I don't think it's exactly what I did before. Okay. But it's a double exposure. Now, if I want to add another layer, maybe I want some bokeh, I can just do that by adding another layer. And see all, because I've already added some bokeh. How about maybe some sparkly yellow or some blue? Let's go with some yellow. I think maybe this one. Okay, so when I add this, again, I'm going to want the blend mode, and it's probably going to be one of these once again. I find that screen works well. Lighten works well here too. Okay, so obviously I need to resize this. We can do stretch, fill, right? And I just want to put it so I can have a couple of bokehs. I don't want too many. And that's actually not bad. I don't mind these ones down here, but I don't want them up top here. Okay. So once again, we're going to mask, and I'm going to go with a linear gradient because I want it on the bottom, but not on the top. So now we can see what that's doing. Giving us a little bokeh. Something like that. How about a moon? Do we want something else? Well, no, we can't have the moon. We've got the sunset. I'm just getting creative here. Oh, I've got the Cuban flag in here apparently as well. Oh, I do have these as layers. These are the grunge edges that I was talking about earlier that I could add to the edge of the flag, right? So this is kind of a fun thing to do, where if you set it to darken mode, because the edge of the item is, I'll just fill, there we go, black. Okay, so if I set it to darken, you'll get a dark edge like so. If I want it to be white, I could just invert the entire thing using curves. So that's kind of a cool image. What do you guys think? Okay, questions. I did not buy the smoke brushes. No, I just found them. Why not put photos on the desktop? Well, you don't want to put anything on your desktop, Robert, because your computer constantly has to redraw the desktop. Supposedly they've changed that a bit, but it can slow your entire computer down because it's constantly redrawing your desktop. And if you have gigabytes or terabytes of stuff on your desktop, your whole computer can run slow. That's why. Yeah, like Rob said, allegedly. So what do you think of that one? Okay, so now, I don't have to save it because we didn't do this as a plugin. So now it's already just back in my catalog, and there's our double exposure. So I've done this one a few different times. We could also do it the other way around. We could take this image and put the other one on top. And because I noticed that I already had these images in here, there he is. I've also got one where he's a silhouette. So I could just add this one. So there he is as a smaller dude. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so Phil, I could put him. Where do I want to put him? He doesn't kind of fit, does he? Now he's sort of multiplicity, and I feel like he's a Michael Keaton. Okay, so let's do the same sort of soft light. That's actually not bad, right? But we've got this edge here, so you can see the edge of the other image. So that's where the blending and the masking comes in again. So once again, I'm just going to do a linear gradient so it fades out to this edge like that. See how easy that was? So masking here. So I haven't done a cutout of anything yet. Would anybody like me to do a cutout? So there's a couple of really quick double exposures. I think I want to do one of these girls in Luminar because it shows a really cool thing with the blur filter. Let's do... Which one do you guys want to see? I can put smoke behind either of them. Let's do the one with the skull because I can use the neon, and then I can also use the magic light. So I'll show you the smoke. So this one wasn't done with a smoke brush. It was done with a smoke image that I bought. But I could do it with a smoke brush as well. Or did I? Maybe I'm making stuff up here. Let me open this one and I'll show you. So I'm opening it in Photoshop, edit the original, so you'll see the layers that I used. No worries, Stephanie. Better late than never. Better late than never, and you can always catch up. Which one was that, David? The sax player? Okay, so here is our girl. This is Jacqueline. She's an Indigenous model. She put together this was a shoot we did a couple of years ago for Halloween. She wanted a sexy witches photo shoot. So this is what we did. And they came dressed to the nines and all makeup. They're all professional makeup artists and models. And it was a really fun shoot. I'm out of sync again. You know what? I don't know, Rob. Like, I find that... Is that any better? I find that last time we did this, I looked and I was in sync on the recording, but out of sync live. So I don't know if it's just a live thing. Also possibly because I am set to, again, 4K. So it could be the 4K thing, just live. So can you guys put up with me being out of sync? I'm tiny in the frame. I'm like a little small head. You like the image in the border. Yeah, I never actually put a border on that one before. I never put a border on that one before, or the bokeh. So I'm just playing around. Stephanie says looks in sync. Take a poll. Okay, so let me show you how I did this one. So literally there's only two tools on here, Luminar Neo and Liquify. So Liquify... Do you want to see what I did with Liquify? I don't know if she wants to see. I don't know if she wants to see the before. Liquify literally just sort of tucks a few things in. I don't actually think I did a lot here with Liquify. Where did it go? I lost all my tools. No, it's taking me to Luminar Neo. Photoshop, Photoshop, where art thou? It's taking me to Luminar. Okay, questions while I'm doing this. Or while my Photoshop is gone rogue here. I've got two versions of Luminar open. I'm going to close that one. It's opening a new version of Luminar somewhere. Where? I don't know. I'm just going to force quit. There we go. Okay. Let me see if I can get back here. Okay, so I'm not going to... There we go. Now it's rendering. Yeah. Okay, so let me turn it back on again. Whenever you do a filter as a smart filter, it has to render the whole thing again. So I made the mistake of turning off the filter. So if you do that, just be prepared to wait. So in this case, looks like I did add the smoke in Luminar. So I did the whole effects in Luminar. So I'm just going to cancel out of this and see if I can get out of Photoshop. Yeah, I've got my Photoshop linked to the wrong one too. There we go. Okay, so let's just take one of these over to, let's take this one. Oh no, we said we would do the eyes. Okay, so let's take, there we go. Let's take this one over to Luminar. So let's take a look at the original. So there's the before and after. So I cleaned up the background a little bit. Okay, I used some fill in here. And what I might do is actually come back in here and use this generative fill again. Because what I did was I just want to fill in these areas so that there's more color there. So when I'm doing the streak, it doesn't come out as white. And literally it could just be anything, right? It doesn't even have to be generative. Like I can just go in here and fill it with anything. Right, so if I just do this, I just want to get rid of the white spots. So I'm not too concerned about what it looks like. It's too blobby. Let's just lower the opacity. That's better. I just want to give it some color. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, this is a pet peeve of mine in Lightroom is anytime you do a clone or a healing tool, you have to go update your AI masks every single time. It's really annoying. Still analyzing, see? And I keep getting that weird noise. Bloop. And I'm going to brighten her just a little bit. Okay. So now let's take this over to Luminar. Because what I did was I did some portrait editing on her as well. But I'm going to do it in Photoshop. Right? And then to Luminar. Maybe not. Let's go direct to Luminar. Again, I'm doing this in the essence of speed. So the first time I did go to Photoshop first. And that's where you saw it as a smart filter. But I'm in essence of speed and we're going direct to Luminar. So what I want to show you is how to create that spin or zoom background, how to add the smoke, and how to add the eyeballs. Okay, so all of that has to do with masking because we want it to apply only to a certain part of the image, right? All right, so now I know that I'm just going to do a quick portrait edit on her real fast. So I want to do the skin smoothing. My computer is slowing down. Skin smoothing. And I also did face AI because her eyes are quite dark. And so what I did here was I just narrowed her face a little bit. And then I chose brown to spark up her eyes because her eyes were really dark and I wanted them to show up more. Right? And she had kind of sleepy look, so I wanted to widen her eyes a little bit. Okay. Her eyebrows are good. This will just darken them. And her lips are good. Okay, so that's what I've done here. I don't think I need to lighten her face. I think she's good. All right. Oh, I could go in and do bokeh blur, but I decided to do something different on this one, and I went into the creative tools, into the blur tool. Okay, so I did this all on one layer, but we could do this on a separate layer, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, because when you add the smoke, we have to add the smoke as a layer, and that's where we end up having to mask her. Okay, so let's duplicate this layer, right, like so. So it should give us a second layer. And then on this one, I'm going to do a portrait background removal. Okay, so I'm going to remove the background. Okay, and let's see how well it does. It should be fairly easy on this one because she's got a nice clean outline and her hair is smooth. If it would be more complex if she had, you know, curly hair. Okay, so let's see. That's not bad. Okay, I need to turn this layer off. Let's hide this one because I want to see when I turn that off how we're doing. That's pretty good, actually. I might just do a quick refine around the hair like this. And a quick refine. I'm going to zoom in so I can see. Oh, that's better. See, it's missing part of her shoulder there, so I want to get her. And now it's missing part of her hair. So I use the I use the object brush around the outside of the subject. And it just tells Luminar where the edge of the subject is. Okay, so you can actually use it to refine and get rid of some of these hairs that are flyaway as well. So I can come in and say, let's take a bigger brush. I can say, look, this is the background. And it's going to look for blurring stuff in that area. Yeah, see, it's got some of the trees there. So let's blur that. And then I'm going to go all the way up here. So I get as close to her hair as I can. Like that. That's a whole lot better. Now, transition is the zone between the background and the subject. So now I just go with the transition brush along the edge where I want the edge to be. Okay. And it looks for the edge. Another little refinement here. I think I don't have to be super critical here because I'm going to be blurring the heck out of this anyways, okay? It's not bad. I'm still missing a little bit of her head up here. And I could probably get a bit more of her hair. Like this. One thing about masking is, I mean, you can really start to spend a lot of time on this kind of stuff. Renee spends hours masking, like hours and hours, especially when you have a model with hair, right? So I still think I'm missing some of her hair. Let's just do this. So I did object and then I'll just run down with a transition again. So transition looks for the edges, okay? Now let's turn this background on. So you're not going to see anything different here, okay? So this is her on one layer now, and the other background is exactly the same. So it doesn't look any different until we start doing stuff, okay? Now I'm back on the bottom layer. So this is the one where you see everything, and let's go to that blur tool, okay? I'm going to do twisted, which will give us the zoom blur. Right? But now look what happens, okay? You notice because we cut her out and put her on this layer, she's still showing visibly. If I hide this top layer, okay, that's what's happening on the bottom. So now I can place the blur center as if I want the zoom coming out from the skull, for example, okay? And then when I turn this top layer back on, that's the one we cut out, okay? Now, I don't have to mask her with this tool. I've already used the layer masking to do that for me, right? We could also choose to twist if we want to do a twist, okay? I did zoom last time. Maybe we'll do twist this time. Now, there's not enough twist with one, okay? So what we need to do is just do it again. So close it, twist, 100%, and 45 degrees. Right? So we start to get more twist. It's just making a blur. Maybe I'll leave it at 0. Go back to zoom. I need to place the center. Right? So remember, I placed the center down here. There we go. That was the problem. That's better. See, it's starting to swirl. This piece of grass here is doing something strange. Let's try one more. Twisted. 45 and place the center. Okay, so that's the twist. If I decide I want to do motion blur or go back to the zoom blur instead, all I have to do is just change the angle back to 0 3 times. Right, now we have a zoom blur instead. I kind of like this one better on this image. Okay, we could try the motion blur as well. I haven't played with that one. Okay, going up and down, right? So let's say motion blur, up and down. It's just about creating different lines, okay? So how we want to do it, this kind of, you know, could look like fire. So that's kind of interesting, actually, right? And I'm not crazy about this white spot. Remember I said the background, I wanted to fill those spots in, okay? So I might actually go in here and just do an erase here and see what it fills in with. I just want some more color in that corner there and not that, still not giving me what I want. No, let's try the clone tool. I just want to put some color there, right? I know what I could do. We could do color harmony. One of my favorites, color contrast. There we go. A little bit more yellow. Now she looks like she's on fire. Like that. There we go. Warm it up. And now we're cooking. There we go. I'm kind of trying to make it look like flames. I kind of like this vertical action going on here. And super contrast will help us cut those highlights down. There we go. Like so. Okay, I could even go in and do a full shift of the color and just make it a lot more yellow, right? Increase the yellows. Or we could shift the color here, right? Because this bottom layer is not affecting her, we can literally make it any color. Ooh, that's kind of funky. Do we want red flames? That's kind of cool. How about red flames and red eyes? Orange flames? There we go. Okay, so I'm shifting the entire color. I literally just did a lesson on this. I'm working on this lesson right now for the new course. So you're going to see how I'm using that tool to shift the color of objects. Okay, so I'm just adding some red in here. There we go. See that? I'm just picking the red from another area. I don't like light corners. I have a thing about light corners. And I want some more color up here. Maybe over here too. See that? So I'm just adding all these little colors. That's kind of fun. Okay, now we need the smoke, right? So I'm not sure if I've added the smoke in here as a layer or not. Might be one of these actually, because I've done this one a few times. It's hard to tell because the smoke is transparent on the background, so we'll know in a second. Nope, that is a frame, so not that one. This is my pet peeve with adding these layers, is I can't tell what they are. So I'm going to have to go and add the image. Now I need to find out where my smoke is. So I did two things. I've got smoke brushes, and I also downloaded some smoke images. Let's see. Okay, so here's some overlays. These ones are hard because they're literally transparent, so I can't see them. It's hard to see. Can't see what it looks like. Let's try. Oh, that might be kind of cool. Let's try this one. Okay, so let's add this one. And let's put it, let's fill. So it goes to the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to do 100% opacity, but we want it below her layer. Okay, so right now it's on the top. Now when I drag it below her, now we have her in the smoke. Okay, now I just need to change the blend mode. What do you think the blend mode is going to need to be here for the smoke to show up and the background to show through? Any guesses? How about one of these? Probably lighten or screen, okay? Screen does the trick. And then I can just fade it out a little bit. Okay? Now, if I had flames, I could go get some flames as well, but that's kind of cool. We could do another smoke image. Let's see what else is in here. That one might work well behind her. Let's try that. So let's just do blend mode, screen, put it behind her. And now she's got a halo. She's got a halo. Make it a little bit smokier. There we go. I find this smoke looks a little blue. So what I might do with this one is just shift the color on it. So now it's kind of, you know, blending out from this one. So I just need to shift the color and make it warmer. So develop, color, warm it up. See how that's only affecting that smoke? There we go. I might do the same on this smoke too. The smoke just looks a little bit too blue to match what's behind it. So I could also do a lot or any number of things here, but this just works. Lower the opacity a little bit. Right, now we have the smoke. Now if we want the eyes on the skull to be lit, what I did was, oh, we could make her a ghost too, right? So she could literally just fade away. Right, so for the eyes, I used the neon glow. Where are we? And I came into the eyes here and I used the draw and I just drew like a line and then I shifted the color to red. And then when you bring the whiteness down, right, and the spread down, you get more or less glow. Okay, so less glow, like so. And then I just have to do the same on the other eye. And my drawing wasn't so good there. Let's do another better drawing. Okay. That's better. Ugh. Terrible drawing. Terrible drawing. This is why to use a graphics tablet. Hard to do this with a mouse. Okay, so there's the neon glow for the red eyes. And we could make her eyes glow red as well. And then what I did was magic light, which should add a starburst on these glowy eyes. And it's not. So we can add it. Oh, it's still thinking about it. No, we can add it. Okay, so if we want starbursts on the eyes, we can choose how many beams coming out of his eyes. And it picks up the color of what you paint over it. So if I want it more red, I just need to get it on the red part. right? Or a smaller brush. Maybe a little smaller on this one too. So just a small glow. Okay. So there we have it. Now, if she had a ring on, we could make her ring, you know, glow as well. I don't know why it doesn't like before and after anymore. So there's our before and after. So I did a completely different edit with this one. I think I'm going to add an edge vignette on the original layer. So this is the bottom layer, right? So you have to be really careful which layer you're editing, right? So this is the background, right? Just to darken those edges a little bit, like so. And I might do the same actually on here. So this is the smoke layer. Then see how it's darkening the bottom? There we go. All right, thoughts. Could I duplicate the eye settings on the, what do you mean, Robert? Like on the skull? So I'm on this layer. I certainly could. Like I've got the neon and glow, like anywhere else I want that glow. I've already chosen the color and the whiteness. Like if I want to put it in her eyes, I don't know if she's going to like that. I could literally, you know, give her laser beams for eyes, right? That's a little intense, right? I could probably give her Dracula eyes. She might like it, actually. She might like this one. So yeah, let's duplicate this and we could give her Dracula eyes. So neon and glow. And let's just do, if I draw around the iris, it's going to do something weird, I think. Yeah. I'm just going to do a pinpoint just in the center and what color we want. So whiteness down will give you more color. And do we want yellow eyes, orange eyes, or stick with the red? Stick with the red. Right? Definitely don't want them glowing that much. That's kind of neat. Now she's just kind of got the pinpoints, right? Like so. Maybe a little whiter. Less intense. A little wild. I'm not convinced about the eyes yet. I'm not convinced on that one. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. Maybe yellow. Gold eyes is kind of interesting. Okay. The other one under the neon and glow tool that I have done as well on this image is inner or outer glow. All right, so if I bring this up. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. My bad. I need to go to glow. Let it do its thing. Okay, so I need to go to glow and outer glow. Okay, so this is another function of the neon glow tool. So I'm going to go to outer glow. And let's just get the whiteness here. See that? It's making this yellow glow. Or why is it glowing on the inside? Inner should be 0. So outer. Because I masked her in the original one, it's not going to give me sparkles here. Because I wanted to give her sparkles around the outside. But because we've masked her, we'd have to go back in. Let's just see what happens if I try it on this one. Let's do neon and glow. Glow, outer. Don't even know if it's going to recognize her anymore because our original image is so blurred. Don't know if it's going to recognize her as a subject. There we go. Okay. So now we have a yellowish glow. Like so. And I kind of like the sparkles, to be honest. It's kind of neat for stuff like this, right? So it's kind of, you know, hokey-ish, but I definitely want it to be the same color. I don't want pink sparkles. There we go. Okay, so I've got yellow sparkles and yellow glow around her. See that? So maybe I'll make it bigger and just less intense. Now she looks definitely like a witch. Must run. Yes on the skull and add a ring. Well, I don't have a ring to add. We could try generative tools on this one. And I'm still not sold on these eyes here. So I think I'm going to ixnay the eyes. Oh, it is kind of doing some neat stuff around her though. But I am going to ixnay on the eyes. But the glow itself is actually kind of interesting. Yeah, without the eyes, I think. I think she's going to like this. I think she's going to like it. I think she's going to like it. Ah, we can even affect the background. Look at that. Yeah, this tool is kind of cool. It's not something that I thought I would use a lot, right? But because we cut her out and put her on the new layer with this mask on this layer, now you see all the possibilities. So I put the smoke in between, and now we can do all kinds of cool things, right? I feel like I want to crop it. I feel like there's too much space around her. So if I crop, it should crop all of the layers. That's better. I like it. Now I'm regretting not doing it as a Photoshop document. However, I can save it as a preset. So I'm just going to call it Witchy Woman. And then once it's saved, then if I want to apply it on another one, I'd have to do a cutout and so on. So the only thing with saving a preset of this is it saves the layers and the masks exactly the same. So if I try and apply this on a different image with a different girl, it'll put the second layer as her. So that's not going to work. You'll see. All right, so I'm going to apply this and it should come back into Lightroom for us. You're welcome, Robert. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So that was a fun edit. Like I said, I've done this one before and did it slightly differently. But those are the tools that I use. And when you're doing masking, if you're wanting to do a cutout, it has to be more crucial. The keys there are to make sure that you have a nice, clean separation between your subject and your background so that it's easier to cut out. Let me just come back over here while it's still saving. There we go. All right, so nice clean separation between your subject and your background if you're going to cut something out. And remember that when you are masking, everything comes into play with layers. So if you're working with layers in Luminar Neo, make sure you know the order of the layers, the blending modes, the mask that's applying, the opacity of that which you're painting on the mask, and similarly in Photoshop as well. Okay. Oh no, Neo quit on me. I hope it saved. That was a good edit. Oh, I don't think it saved. Oh, it did. Whew. There's our image. So, Jackie, if you're watching, Jacqueline, I'm going to send you this because she's going to like it, I think. But if you want glowy yellow eyes, let me know. I can add you some glowy yellow eyes. So she's an awesome model and makeup artist. And cosmetologist. So she is fantastic. Love it. And she's a fun model to work with. All the girls were. So any last questions about masking? All right, so the biggest thing I could tell you is make your life easy. Don't try to mask something that's hard, okay? I've had students send me images like that saying, help, I can't mask this. It's like, well, it's impossible. You've made, on the levels of the score of 0 to 100 of hardness, you've made yourself 100. So make it easier to cut things out or to use blend modes, okay? Another fun one that we've done that I do masking with is light painting. This one here, is that a Photoshop document? This one is comprised of several different layers as well. And I've masked in the parts that I wanted it to show from each of the images. So when you're doing light painting, it's a simple matter of changing the blend modes and to lighten usually, and then masking the parts out that you don't want to show in each particular image. For example, if you make a boo-boo or you don't want it to show on a particular section. Photoshop is opening and it has multiple layers. That's why it's taking so long. Yes, I know I can't use the clone stamp. Where is my layers? Where's my layers? Lost my layers. There it is. Okay, so there's the layers that I used to create this image. Just make it smaller so you can see it. So I started with always the darkest one on the bottom. So that was this one. Then I did a levels adjustment to make it even darker. And the reason that you want a dark one on the bottom when you're doing light painting like this is take an image where you haven't added any light using a flashlight or a flash, so that when you make a boo-boo and you mask it, this one is the one that's on the bottom that's going to show through, okay? So I'll show you when I added this one. It's masked to hide those bits, okay? So I didn't want it showing the light here because I did a better job in a different image, okay? And again, this dark one shows on the bottom. Then I added this one and masked out the sign and a bit on the ground. Again, I felt like I did a better job on a different layer, like this one here, okay? Masked out all of that because I made a big mess, right? And as a matter of fact, I kind of think now that I'm looking at this one, I'm going to turn this opacity down just a little bit on this one. And I might even come back and rethink this masking. So I'm just going to get a soft brush. Where's my toolbar? Make sure I've got white. And I want it to show this spot down here. Oh, is that the one? No, it was this one. Wrong mask. Okay, let's do this one. So I've got white. I've got a brush. I'm on this mask. So I'm just going to let this little spot come through. Right. And the next layer, added even more contrast. Again, masked out the parts that were too bright just to fade that out a little bit. Okay. The sign, masked out the shiny bits, keeping the contrast. Then we added a guy and we wanted him to be the ghost, right? But I had some odd light bits. Now we've got his arms, but I showed up. So that's me with the flashlight. So masked myself. And then just one final one to do a little bit of editing. So that's the final version. And I think I ended up using the one without him, but because you have these layers, you can decide how you want to do it. And as you saw, amend it at any time, okay? So now I'm going to save it because I did an edit on that one. So save and close. So when I'm doing light painting images like that, I take a multitude of images so that I'm lighting different parts of the scene. I'm using the flashlight. I lit up the headlight. We added the guy. Make sure that the scene doesn't move and your tripod is in one place. You don't move anything. Don't move the camera. Then you can just layer them like this and pick the parts from each one that went the best, right? And it's just a game of pick and choose then. Okay. So we are going to be, final notice, a couple of things I want to let you know about is that our Luminar Neo course is in the process of being redone. I mentioned that earlier. I just have to find the information on it. Where is it? There it is. So our Luminar course is being completely redone. I'm redoing all the videos now, and we have it on sale for $59 right now. So if you do not have our Luminar Neo course, please pick it up now. The sale ends December 2nd, and we are starting a special program called the Accelerator. We will have one live call with me like this every week, but as a Zoom call. So you will have direct discussion time and Q&A time with me for an hour and a half every week for 7 weeks during this accelerator program. So you get that included when you buy this course. It has been proven that this is a style of learning, which is called cohort learning, is proven to help you learn faster and stay on track. How many courses have you bought and not finished, right? Me too. So this is why we're doing it this way, to help you progress through the lessons, and we're going to work through that together, right, with your cohort. Likewise, we're also going to be moving the time and date for our live. Please give me a refresher, Rob. I forget what time we're at now. I got to check my calendar. So we're moving to Sundays, and what we're going to do is we're going to alternate every second Sunday, and the time will change. So the first Sunday of the month and the third Sunday of the month. So our next one is going to be December 1st, and that is at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So 12 p.m. Mountain, 2 p.m. Eastern. And then in 2 weeks after that will be the 15th. I'm literally looking at my calendar, and that one's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern. So Sundays at, what did I say? 2 p.m. Eastern on the first Sunday of the month, and Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern on the third Sunday of the month. And that's what we're going to do moving forward, because we want to be able to have our European viewers and our Australian viewers join us and not have them wait a whole season. Okay. So all you have to do is wait for the next go round. So if you're in Europe, join us on the early one. If you're in Australia, join us on the later one. So we'll see you every 4 weeks instead of every 6 months. So we're going to stick with Sunday. We surveyed people. That's when people want us to do it. So the next one you're going to see is Sunday, December 1st, 2 p.m. Eastern time. I don't have a topic for you yet, but check the DPM YouTube live page and you'll see the topic, and it will also remind you of the date. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notifications button, and then you will automatically be notified when we are going live and when I have a new video for you. So that was a lot. Thanks for sticking around. Those of you that did, and I'm glad you're here. How many of you are still here? 22 of you. So thanks for sticking around through all of the technical issues. And what did I miss, Rob? I think that's it. Check the chat, and any questions that you have about anything, we'll have a link to our course with the sale price in the comment area below and in the description. So buy the course, buy us a burger. You can also, if you already own the course, sorry, I mentioned that. If you already own the course, you get the upgrade for free, right? If you want to join the accelerator, you have two choices. You can purchase the accelerator, which is $39, or you can join our community, and then it's included with that. So we'll put links for all of that down below. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. So we'll see you on December 1st. Take care.